Of all the awards making news tonight, there's one that recognizes a greater scope of accomplishment. We all want to be in this business for life, and the next award celebrates a person who has set the bar so high for all of us. It is my pleasure to turn this podium over to my friend Kristen, who will introduce the Nora Roberts Lifetime Achievement Award winner. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kristen Higgins.
It is such an honor tonight to introduce the recipient of the 2016 Nora Roberts Lifetime Achievement Award to my great friend, Robyn Carr. Picture this. It's Minnesota in the 1950s, and a young woman is pregnant and not married. She goes to a home for unwed mothers, planning to put the baby up for adoption. At the last minute, she decides to keep the baby, goes back to her parents' house, and names her daughter Robyn, Robyn with a Y. For the first part of her childhood, Robyn was raised by her wonderful grandmother, who instilled in her a lifelong love of reading. When Robyn was 9, her mother married and quickly had 3 more children, leaving Robyn in charge of her siblings much of the time, giving her a lot of responsibility and the classic can-do Midwestern attitude. Immediately after high school, Robyn started to train as a nurse. The problem was she was dating a cute boy, and it was the 1970s. The Vietnam War was raging on the other side of the world. It was inevitable that her boyfriend would have to enlist or be drafted. What was this teenage girl, barely out of high school, to do? Readers, she married him. This boy who would become Captain James Carr, a helicopter and jet pilot for the United States Air Force. At 19, Robyn threw her fortune in with his and began life as a military wife. 3 years later, they had a son. 21 months after that, they had a daughter. Robyn was barely 25, raising the kids mostly alone. The military families here tonight know exactly what that was like. Abrupt moves, uncertainty in a time of war, and the kind of sacrifice and fear most of us never have to experience. With 2 babies, a husband who was rarely home, moving from state to state, Robyn began to write, probably to save her own sanity. 3 years later, in 1978, Robyn sold her first book, a historical romance, the kind written by the women who had turned publishing on its head, Woody Wiss, Pilcher, Devereaux. Robyn joined RWA and began to meet other romance authors. In fact, she became friendly with a then unknown writer who'd also go on to do pretty well in this business, the author for whom this award is named. Robyn kept on writing, a book a year back in those days, though I'm happy to say she's a lot faster now. By right of arms won a golden medallion in 1987, the award we now call a Rita. Her friend Nora also won that year. Another one of Robyn's historical novels, A Woman's Own, received a glowing write-up from the New York Times Book Review. Her suspense venture, Mind Tryst, got not 1 but 2 movie options. But Robyn did more than write and raise the kids. She was a feminist back when many of us were in grammar school, before many of you were born. She worked for the Equal Rights Amendment, belonged to the National Organization for Women, and lobbied for accessibility for women's health care and equal pay for equal work. She was an activist for women's rights while writing romance in the 1970s and 80s, proving early on that no other genre celebrates the strength of women as clearly as ours. When Jim finished his distinguished military service, he became an airline pilot and executive, and the family continued to move. And such a family it is. Jim, now retired, is both in awe of his wife and keeps her feet on the ground. Robyn calls him M1, her only assistant. He was finally able to indulge in his favorite sport, golf, and gets out of the house every day to let Robyn do her thing. And for that, Jim, we are very grateful. He cooks her dinner every night, listens to her ideas, does the grocery shopping, and after more than 40 years of marriage, Jim is well aware of how lucky he is and how lucky Robyn is too. Robyn's children are here tonight as well. And I'm sorry, you guys, but I'm going to ask you to stand. Lieutenant Colonel Brian Carr of the United States Army. Brian is an orthopedic surgeon who has saved lives and limbs in Iraq. And their daughter, Lieutenant Jamie Prosser of the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. Jamie has worked in robbery and internal affairs and was a hostage negotiator for 5 years and daily puts her life on the line in the protection and service of others. So thank you, Jim, Brian, and Jamie, for your service. Brian and Jamie each have 2 beautiful daughters, and the 4 girls call their beloved grandmother Jaja. But back to Robyn's career. There she was, our Robyn, a solidly producing, well-reviewed, award-winning author who couldn't get off the mid-list. And then, suddenly, her career came to a grinding halt. Not her writing, her career. For most of the 90s, Robyn could not sell a book. For 8 years, she didn't have a contract. This from an author who'd written for some of the most prestigious publishing houses in the world. No one wanted her. She couldn't sell a thing. Fellow writers told her to accept the facts. She wasn't writing what readers wanted. Maybe it was time for her to move on, get a real job. Given the circumstances, it was hard not to believe them. But she didn't. She didn't believe them. It was a watershed moment in her career. She listened to that quiet voice that told her she was a writer, and writers write. Eventually, the drought broke, and the house on Olive Street was sold to Mira Books. Her women's fiction novels tackled the issues we all face: failing friendships, aging parents, difficult children, stale marriages. Her career wasn't going badly, but she wasn't doing great either. And then in 2005, Robyn went to RWA National in Reno to pitch an idea, a series. She'd written 1 book already and had started a second. The first would feature a military man, a midwife, a small mountain town in Northern California, and a little pub called Jack's Bar. The series would feature returning veterans coming to visit their commander and inevitably finding a reason to stay in the town called Virgin River. The editor didn't like the idea. Robyn cried all the way back to Las Vegas. And then she did what became another defining moment in her career. She wrote those books anyway. She wrote 4, as well as an overview of the whole series, and begged the editor to read just 50 pages. And this time, the editor loved it. And the rest, as they say, is history. In November 2008, 30 years after she sold her first book, A Virgin River Christmas became Robyn's first ever New York Times bestseller. It slid onto the list at number 32, and every single book she has written since that day has landed on that esteemed list, as well as on the bestseller lists at USA Today, Publishers Weekly, and the Wall Street Journal. Bring Me Home for Christmas, the 16th Virgin River novel, debuted at number 1 and stayed there the next week too. Every one of the remaining Virgin River titles debuted at number 1, and so did 8 of the 9 Thunder Point novels. As of today, more than 30 million of Robyn's books have been sold throughout the world. They've spent more than 230 weeks on the New York Times bestseller lists and have been translated into more than 24 languages. It's no wonder, then, that Robyn's books embody her own qualities: hard work, determination, confidence even when the world tells you no, humility, graciousness, commitment. She's known for writing strong female protagonists. She is one. She raised one. And honorable heroes, like her husband, like her son. She creates settings that make readers want to pack up and move. Through every book shines her unwavering message: everyone has untapped strength. Everyone deserves love. But Robyn is also known for her legendary generosity to her fellow writers. She writes fan letters to authors, tells her readers about new authors, spends more time promoting other writers on social media than she promotes herself. When asked for advice, Robyn never hesitates to tell it like it is. She's always willing to share her experiences and wisdom, as well as the beliefs she herself has lived. You can do this. Keep improving. Don't give up. You are enough. So many of us here tonight have benefited from Robyn's unfailing kindness and graciousness and roar at her body, lightning-fast humor. Robyn Carr is everything we aspire to be: welcoming, warm, talented, determined, humble, honest, and perhaps more than anything else, brave. Here to present Robyn with the 2016 Nora Roberts Lifetime Achievement Award is RWA's president, Diane Kelly.
On behalf of the members of Romance Writers of America, we'd like to congratulate Robyn Carr.
I am never going to get through this. Body? Did she say body? I have a few important people to thank, and then we'll talk. Thank you, Kristen, for that beautiful tribute to me and my family. And it was a little emotional. I may not be able to do too much here tonight. I have tissues. My most humble appreciation to the RWA board for the nomination and the award. It is by far the greatest thing that has ever been done for me in my work in all my years. A wonderful acknowledgement. Thank you so much. Craig Swinwood, Loriana Sakamoto, Margaret Marbury, my Harlequin A team, thank you for making this possible. And in fact, thank you to all of Harlequin. There are many hardworking people doing the heavy lifting while I get the fun part. I've been in this business for a long time, and I've had several publishers, wonderful publishers, but my experience with Harlequin has been unsurpassed. I'm incredibly proud to have had the privilege of working with these professionals. Nicole Brebner, my editor, thank you for making the past few years such a great, positive, productive experience. You've become my touchstone, my partner, my friend. I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And my readers are especially grateful that you're in my life. I have a terrific PR machine to whom I owe my deepest gratitude. Michelle Renaud, you are a gift and a goddess, and I so appreciate your dedication. To say I would be lost without you would be an understatement. Nancy Berlin, there have been so many days I rely on your professionalism and your great instincts, and you've always been there for me. Sarah Birmingham is not here tonight of Little Bird Publicity, but she is a breath of fresh air who brings such talent and insight to the PR jungle, and I'm most grateful. Diane Moggy, didn't expect to hear her name mentioned tonight. Diane Moggy, we met by chance right at the time you were starting to build this little imprint called Mira Books for Harlequin. And what a coincidence. I had not sold a book in 8 years. The book I sent you, The House on Olive Street, had collected 3 years' worth of rejections. Yet you saw something of value there, something with promise. You discovered me, you put me back on my feet, you gave me something to work for, you gave me something to hope for, and you gave me my career back. Yeah. I thank you with all my heart, Diane, and I think it's working out. Liza Dawson, my agent, my trusted friend, you are my rock. We've had a lot of good fortune together, working as a team, and I'm grateful for every day of it. But tonight, what comes to mind are all the struggles that we had that led up to our good fortune, and how hard it was at times to be positive and to be optimistic. But you guided me with strength and wisdom and always with grace. From the moment we met in 1985, you have been squarely on my team and never showed a moment's doubt. I'm so proud to work with you, Ms. Dawson. You're a catch. Everybody sends your manuscripts to Liza Dawson. Oh, here comes the hard part. My children, thank you for everything. You've both chosen to serve, and that fills me with pride. I wonder if you have any idea how lucky you are to leave the world a better place, and you do that every single day. Jamie, I've been so impressed by your accomplishments in a big police department. Still a man's world. Though there have been times I've chewed my nails a little bit, I've never doubted your proficiency, but I admit I sometimes doubt the world we live in. Brian, you've given our military your best. Your father and I stand taller because of that. Your deployment was a challenge for everyone, especially your wife and young children, but I have to admit, I will always treasure those long Skype discussions we had almost every day. And thank you for not telling me when I couldn't reach you, you were probably taking cover. You know how much I love you both, So let's get this settled once and for all. You are both my favorite. Jim Carr, love of my life. What a wonderful ride we've had. I suppose everything was stacked against us, marrying so young, taking so many risks. A new airline that didn't have an airplane yet comes immediately to mind. People must have thought we were crazy betting on ourselves like we did. But didn't we have the best time? What stands out when I think of our many years together are the few ferocious arguments in which I was notably right, and so much laughter. No matter politics, poverty, or kids, we made a damn good marriage. I threw you a curve or two. You didn't marry a feminist or a writer, but you got one. And I think you did all right. You are the most important person in my life. Nothing would be this good without you. I cannot do that. Thank you for loving me. Thank God that's done. My best friends, now we can talk. My friends, this is the easy part. Now it's the time I get to give advice because I'm a woman of a certain age. And I have a mic. I'm not sitting down until I'm ready. My first piece of advice is skip menopause. It's a huge waste of time. My next piece of advice is this year, let it be all about the story. Remember in your head and your heart how you talked about the last book you found memorable, unputdownable, the last book that took your breath away, that you still think about though you last read it long ago. Remember the last book you read over and over and over. You didn't want to stop talking about it. You were so happy when you met someone who had also read it, so you could talk about it some more and talk about your favorite parts, and you have many favorite parts. I know you. I know how hard you're working. I know how big your dreams are. I know your heartache and your euphoria. I know everything you're feeling, everything you want, every roller coaster ride you're experiencing in this writer's world. I know about your blocks and those spells when you bleed pages. They come so fast. Things have changed since I started to write a book. It's gotten much easier. You didn't expect me to say that, did you? You have easily 10 times the outlets to publish your work. You can type it up on a computer or tablet and email it in rather than putting it in an envelope with an SASE. Allowing up to 3 months for a response. One submission at a time, please. Self-publishing is now cheaper and more accessible. Self-publishing has always been around, but it was very expensive back in the day, and it usually resulted in a garage full of books. You have a million ways to sell books now. We had 2. Either the library and bookstore took them, or you sold them out of your trunk. But let me tell you what hasn't gotten easier. Let me tell you what's harder than ever. Writing the book that has the magical, mystical connection with a body of readers who just won't shut up about it. We're being rushed and pushed by the same elements that are supposed to make our work easier. Social media, instant communication, everything at high speed. The information machine has bombarded us with data, all of it apparently critical, all of it meant to make us more successful faster, all of it a blistering noise. Time to take a breath and remember those unforgettable stories that took your breath away and how each memorable scene and snatch of dialogue affected your emotions. Time to remember how emotionally captured you were by the characters. Sometimes I wonder if small-town romance, Virgin River, for example, was so beloved because Jack didn't have a computer. The cell phones didn't work. There was no cable or Wi-Fi. The characters had to resolve their issues human to human, employing a deep connection and understanding of one another that could not be translated into a brief post or a text or a tweet. A meaningful, memorable book, a purely subjective thing, begins and ends with the writing of it. Not with the marketing, not with the format. It takes so much to write a truly wonderful book. Study, learning, emotional energy, time, space. It takes a willingness to sacrifice, to make changes, to judge your own work harshly, and weigh all outside opinions for their possible worth. It takes failure. It takes rejection. Winston Churchill said, "Success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm." When we talk about those special books that have shaped our ambitions and our desires, we don't talk about their marketing plans. We talk about qualities that made the story speak to us, speak to many. Is marketing important? Absolutely. About 15% or so of the whole package. When the whole experience of writing a book becomes more about how to sell it or which format earns the most money, we're losing some of the magic. It's like spending all your time buying lottery tickets instead of working to prepare yourself for a long-lasting, successful career. There's a wonderful commencement speech by Tim Minchin on YouTube. He's a well-known Australian comic, and he delivered 9 life lessons. The first one, and I paraphrase, he says, "Go ahead and big dreams are great, go for it. But big dreams can prevent you from seeing what's in front of you. Put your head down," he says, "and do the work. Take pride in the task before you." This advice, long before I heard Tim Minchin give it, has been my saving grace. I find that if I relegate my big plans and my huge far-fetched dreams and my endless strategies to a small percentage of the total picture and let the writing take up the largest portion, I'm happiest. If I take my satisfaction from the work, the only thing I can really control, I'm happiest. You want to know what I remember? I remember I got it. I remember being a young mother in a very small apartment with no car in a new city. I was a military wife. It was always a new city. I read romances to get through the hard parts of my day, or at least the monotonous parts. My fantasy life was so stimulated and so enriched, I was talking to myself all day. And then I thought, why not write one? Well, I didn't have a typewriter, and computers that were smaller than a house had not been invented yet. I had a pen. I bought a notebook at a grocery store. I sat down and began telling myself a story on paper. It was ghastly, of course. So was yours. But I was so happy. On that day, my life changed forever, and it never changed back. This year, let it be about the story. Good luck. I hope all your dreams come true, and when you're writing stories, to take my breath away.
Robyn, if there's a dry eye left in the house after that, her son is a hero and mine is a stripper. But I love him. No, seriously, that was amazing and inspiring, and it is.